Thank you, Emily and Graham at the Electrifying Women International Project for allowing me to share a small slice of the history of Indian women in engineering. I'm a mentor and project guide at Carnegie Mellon University, which is my alma mater. And I also mentor students at College of Engineering, Guindy, which is my undergraduate alma mater in India. I'm a grandmother and author of 2 books, one of which is Roots and Wings, which chronicles the stories of pioneering Indian women engineers. I am also a co-author of a book called Demystifying AI for the Enterprise. My most recent book is called Leadership Lessons with Beatles, which is forthcoming in May. Here's a little background on Roots and Wings. I joined College of Engineering, Guindy, India in 1966, one of a handful of women in a class of hundreds of men. I was singularly focused on getting an engineering education, and it never occurred to me that I didn't belong there. I did not pause to question what it was like for women who entered the engineering field long before me and paved the way for me. When I retired in 2017 from the company I co-founded, I wanted to use the time to do things that I didn't have time for before because I was busy running a global engineering team and taking care of my family. STEM education and women were the hottest topics at that time, and it made me think about the pioneering step I had taken by doing engineering back in the 1960s. And I asked myself, how about all those women who went before me and started researching Indian women engineers? To my delight, I found out that the 3 women who graduated from my college were the first set of women in India to do so in the 1940s. I decided to write about these women and put the writing in front of girls who might be wondering if engineering is a career for them. Not just study engineering, but actually stay in the field and contribute to engineering leadership. My book, Roots and Wings, chronicles the lives of 29 women engineers from India. In the 1940s, India was in the middle of gaining independence. It was also a time when conventional wisdom was questioned by courageous families. Mothers in these families were child brides with very little education, but they had a fire in their bellies that told them that their daughters should do better. Many of the fathers were quite enlightened and joined in support. While medicine was considered a suitable field of education for women in India, even as early as the late 1800s, engineering was not. The first woman to graduate with a medical degree was Anandibai Joshi in 1886. On the other hand, the first group of 3 women to graduate with engineering degrees did so in 1943, almost 60 years after. From my college, College of Engineering, Guindy, one of the oldest engineering colleges globally and the oldest in India. It is now under the umbrella of Anna University in Chennai. Many early women engineers pursued engineering because their fathers or families wanted them to do so. That changed in the 1960s. Many women took up engineering despite opposition from their families. For early women engineers, just the effort to get to college was huge. They were disadvantaged because men had dorms, but there was no place for women on the campus. So they had to stay off campus and commute. This continued even to my days when I had to stay in a women's hostel outside the campus. The one outstanding quality of women in the book is that they were all high achievers, and they simply ignored any put downs and went about reaching their goals, irrespective of the generation. Another essential characteristics of the women is their resiliency in the face of adversity. What also struck me as I was writing this book was that life is not all about what you decide when you are 16 or 17. Sometimes you come across opportunities that look like something you may be interested in, so you have to try it out, take risks, and be flexible and resilient. Important lessons from the lives of these engineering women. The first three women to graduate were Lalita, Leelama, and P.K. Tresia. Lalita was an electrical engineer and the other two were civil engineers. Due to the war, their education was short, only 3 years. Lalita is now well known as the first woman engineer of India since she started college before the other two did in 1940. She gained visibility as the attendee of the first International Conference of Women Engineers and Scientists in New York, which took place in June 1964. The other two women, Leelama and P.K. Tresia, were from Kerala and started their career working for the kingdoms of Travancore and Kochi. P.K. Tresia has the distinction of being the first woman chief engineer in Asia. They were followed by May George, who graduated in 1947 with a civil engineering degree. Her work on low-cost building techniques was very innovative. Raja Lakshmi has the distinction of being the first graduate in telecommunication engineering in 1948. Writing about these women was hard because the first four had passed away when I started my research. I started reaching out to my alumni connections and getting a list of female alumni by year of graduation. Once I had these names, I reached out to other alumni via Facebook pages, LinkedIn connections, and so forth to find out more. I also used extensive internet searches. I pride myself that I'm pretty good at it and I am very persistent. Once I had a contact for an alumni, I got to them or their families through different means, emails, phone calls, Facebook messaging, LinkedIn messaging, in order to collect information. The time difference made it very difficult to have a phone conversation. I live in the US and all my subjects, except a couple of them, were in India, and we have a 12-hour time difference. But anyway, I got to them all and managed to collect the kind of information that I needed for the book. After getting the buy-in from the families of the deceased women, I posted each story on my website. And then when I have done 29 stories, including mine, I decided to publish a book, and the book is the collection of these stories. I hear from many women how much they appreciate hearing about these inspirational women. Many men tell me they bought the book for their daughters. I am pleased to have made a tiny contribution to documenting the history of women engineers in India, and I feel extremely privileged to be able to do so with all the help that I got in writing this book. And thank you so much for an opportunity to share the story of Roots and Wings. Bye.